Well, hello everyone. This is Tom. I want to take this opportunity to give you a little bit of feedback on the first assignment. First of all, thanks for all the work and time and energy you put into it. Some phenomenal papers in there. I really appreciated reading them. It's just rewarding when students dive in and you can tell that they're that folks are getting something from it, and that it's meaningful and valuable. I'll make some adjustments to kind of minimize, I think, a couple of areas that we can kind of cut back a little bit. So I'll put an announcement out on Blackboard later on about that. I want to use this opportunity to kind of talk about a few different things, just to kind of clarify. I think it's a good thing, and some applications from the assignment. First of all, social facts. I think everyone captured the idea really well. The concept and the idea of Durkheim is really that we can look at the external forces to look at human behavior. So he used the example of suicide. I mean, that was one of his first works. He also focused on religion. So he had two areas of interest, early interest. He also developed the sociological method. So he was a prolific theorist, researcher, writer, early sociology. And the value of looking at something like suicide from a lens of social forces is no longer does it become viewed as a individual weakness, pathology, deficit, as we're looking at conditions and structures that are going on, and certain environments, certain groups that we belong to, certain time periods where suicide rates may go up or down. And this calls to our attention that social forces are powerful. And the argument or the perspective I was trying to offer through the assignment was that, we can look at gender inequities, we can look at race inequities. Some of them are we can see the social forces and recognize them and agree with them more readily. Criminal behavior is a little bit stickier. It is still subjected to social forces, but we tend to put an individual moral position on criminal behavior. And I find it fascinating, why do we do that? We can recognize certain social forces and we can accept that, but with criminal behavior, we have a hard time doing that. And I can understand part of that. Part of that's a violation, right? Somebody's done something to violate the welfare of somebody else. But I think a perspective of looking at social forces, it empowers us to be able to understand issues better. And ultimately, we develop better social policies that are more meaningful and valuable to our communities, make our communities safer, better, stronger, that are economically more reasonable, viable, more sustainable, and that are less prone to political political opportunism and for abuse of power if we can be more involved in understanding social forces, which relates to sociology of empathy too, right? So sociology of empathy is the idea of being analytical. So removing the idea that empathy is an emotional thing. That's one way to think about it. I'm advocating that we think about empathy as a cognitive task, as a task of analysis. So if I can look at criminal behavior through a lens of analysis, okay, why is it that this pattern of behavior is occurring? Why is it that males are more likely to commit crimes and certain types of crimes? How is that distributed across societies or in rural communities versus urban versus suburban? What about influence of economics? What about all these different kind of things? It gives it for a more complete understanding of the behavior versus just saying bad people. We never want to say you want to blame the individual. We don't want to blame society either. We want to look for the relationship between the individual and society itself. So it's not that society causes behavior, society influences behavior. And that's a key thing, right? So it's not that society made anyone do anything. It's we can create conditions where certain behavior is more likely than not, right? So that's kind of an important thing. We can think about it as individuals are self-determined, or we're making choices, but we're making choices within an environment. All of us live in different environments. We have different consequences for our behavior. We have different supports that motivate us towards particular behavior and away from other behaviors. So it's about understanding that. Then last is the application of the three theories to happiness. I think it's a great example. It's and so I wanted to spend a few minutes just sort of talking about that. So suicide, right? Social forces. Happiness, social forces. I like these two examples because they really demonstrate sociology, key parts of sociology. Happiness, we kind of think about, well, you create your own happiness, right? It's all in your mind. You create your own happiness. Well, there's some truth to that, right? You can change your happiness in a lot of different ways. I mean, we are individuals who are making decisions. So we can put ourselves in environments around people who are help make us feel good, who are empowering. We can put ourselves in positions that are more helpful towards achieving happiness. We can change our mindset in terms of our expectations. Sometimes our expectations are so out of this world, it's going to be hard to be happy. So some of it's about changing mindset. Thinking about the three theories, though, let's look at the social forces. Functionalism, the analysis would be the more well-integrated people are into community, the more they have belonging and connection, the happier they tend to be, right? So communities of 75,000 to 125,000 people are fairly well integrated, but they're not overly integrated, right? They're not overly regulated. They have enough autonomy, enough freedom, but they have a sense of community. So community becomes really important to shaping pro-social behavior. Conflict theory looks at inequalities, right? Structure, and how institutions may advantage some, disadvantage others. So if we live in an environment that's really unequal, but we live in an environment also that says, well, you can be whoever you want to be, right? That's kind of the American sort of model, is that we say you can be whoever you want to be, you're responsible for your success, responsible for your failure. That would be fine if there was opportunities for everyone that was equally available for everyone. But when we have a system that's highly stratified, it creates an environment where it's going to challenge the happiness levels of people in the community. So one way to increase happiness would be increase resources so people can become self-actualized or kind of move themselves in that direction. Or create more equity, right? Just create more equity. And the last is interactionism. So interaction is about how culture and society or the groups that we belong to help shape our meanings and our understanding. So interactionism isn't about necessarily that you're interacting with people. It's about how we're developing meaning and perceptions and ideas. We operate on our perceptions, not on the way the world operates. So interactionism gets us into that micro level sort of analysis. So that's all I wanted to provide. I don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be, but just want to give a summary of that. Stay tuned for a few changes for the assignments, hopefully kind of minimize them a little bit. If you need some feedback or want some feedback or just want to connect with me in some way, drop me an email. I'd appreciate that. Have yourself a great day, and that's it for now.